The other day I was having a conversation with my friend Billy. Very intelligent guy, by the way. It's very interesting to talk to him. But he brought up a difference that was between the King James and the Geneva Bible. In the King James it says this: He that believeth on the Son hath everlasting life. He that believeth not the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God abideth on him. But in the Geneva Bible it says this: He that believeth in the Son hath everlasting life. And he that obeyeth not the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God abideth on him. So they're both saying that you have to believe to have everlasting life, but on the contrast in the Geneva Bible it's saying that you have to obey, or else you're not going to see life, you're going to go to hell. And this happens a lot with false denominations. They always try to bring in faith and works and act like if you're really saved, you're going to do the works, and if you want to go to heaven, you have to do the works. And some of them teach that if you're really saved, you're not going to sin, which is ridiculous, by the way. Or they say, if you're really saved, then you're not going to continue in that sinful life, and there's gonna be a change in your life, where it's like you will go to church and you will do this and you will do that. And if you leave church, it's a sign that you're not saved. It's just a backwards way to teach work salvation, because they say you don't have to work to get to heaven, but it's like if you're really saved, you will do work, because they always try to blend in faith and works. It's not that simple. If you watch my video on Romans 4 on my YouTube channel, I explain that, where it's not always that simple, where somebody's saved and they always just have works right off the bat and they're just perfect. It's more complicated than that. But my friend asked me, there's a difference with the English here, but is there a difference with the Greek? Is it two different words wherever it talks about believing and not believing, and the Geneva Bible says believing but not obeying? Is there a difference in the Greek? And there is. It's two different words. But the thing is that that's not what that word means. Look at this list right here. We have a bunch of Greek words. Some of them don't have the alpha at the front, and the other ones do. I'll just go down the list. Thanatos, which means death. Athanatos means immortal, means you won't die. Nomos means law. Anomos means lawless, without law. Theos means God. Atheos means godless. Dikaios means fair, right. Adikos means unfair, wrong. Techno, which is like an ancient way to say child, it means child. Atekno means childless. Phobos means fear. Aphobos means fearless. And pitho means I convince, I persuade, and apitheo means I'm not convinced, I'm not persuaded. Because this word isn't just that simple where it just means, disobey. It could mean that if you translate it in different context. But if you look at the context of this verse, it's talking about believing, and on the contrast of that, doing the opposite of that, which is what? It's not believing. Because if you're not persuaded by somebody, if you don't trust somebody, you're unbelieving. So the King James had it right here with this translation. Believing and not believing. It's not right to say believing and not obeying, because that's not the exact same thing. But Satan's been attacking the Word of God since the Garden of Eden, and I believe that he's been attacking definitions of words. And because if you type this into Google Translate today, just type in apithel, it's going to say disobey. But you got to remember, definitions of words change over time, and there's a whole being called Satan who attacks the Word of God, and he will change definitions of words to try to promote false doctrine. Because the Greek New Testament was written down 2,000 years ago, and modern Greek, 2,000 years after the Greek New Testament was penned down, I'd be likely to believe that there's some differences with wording and what words mean and the understanding of things. I believe it's preserved. There's nothing lost. But if we want the definition of the word, we have to look, what did it mean back then? And back then, it wasn't that simple where it just meant disobey. It can mean multiple things, and in this context, it makes more sense to say unbelief, unpersuaded, unconvinced, rather than disobey, because it's a contrast of belief, which is unbelief. So we see right here, all these words, if you just put an alpha, an A at the front of it basically, it changes it and makes it the opposite. So if pitho means I convince, then apitheo means I'm not convinced, or I don't convince, I'm not persuaded. I don't believe, I don't trust. Because if apitheo meant I disobey, then pitho would mean I obey. But it doesn't mean that. Because apitheo doesn't simply mean I disobey. It comes from pitho, the opposite of I convince, which means I am not convinced. I don't believe. I don't trust. That's a better translation of this.